So in the last video, we talked about how to get some data to be in normalized form. And so normalization does have advantages. That's why we're learning it. And the main advantage is that it reduces the redundancy. And when you reduce redundancy, that means you're not storing the same information multiple times. So you also reduce the amount of space that is needed. So this is the main advantage of normalization. Redundancy is reduced, so you have less inconsistencies that could happen. You have less anomalies, insert, update, and delete anomalies, because you don't have like duplicate data to be modifying. And then the really second advantage is that you're reducing the amount of space needed, and this is a huge advantage. Now, there are some disadvantages to normalization where we are splitting the data. So now if I want to, get some piece of information, I might have to go look in several tables. So if I want to know something about how many classes a student still needs to graduate, I need to go from their banner ID, jump into their major. Their major takes me to another table that talks about the credits and what they have. And so I have now the data stored in multiple tables. So splitting tables means the data is not all in one table. It is stored now in more than one table, and queries might be a little bit more complicated to do. Now we're going to learn how to grab data from multiple tables in the next part of this course. What I want to do in this video is just review again kind of what we did before. So no new material, just doing extra practice with anomalies and normalization. So feel free to pause the video at any given time so that you kind of answer the questions yourselves, and then unpause the video and see if you got it right. So here I have a table and I want to know what anomalies exist. So let's think about insert anomalies. What could cause an insert anomaly? Well, here I have Miki, for example. If I decide that Miki is going to take another course like English 101, and I try to insert a row for them, if I get their major wrong, I will have an insertion anomaly where I will have now data for Miki that is not consistent with each other. Or if I have another student taking the Java 1, CSC 127 Java 1 course, I might, by mistake, give them the wrong professor name. So those would be examples of insert anomalies. Now, how about an update anomaly? Well, an update anomaly might occur if English 101, for example, I wanted to change its name. So let's say I wanted to change its name to Intro to English. Now there's more than one place that I need to update it in. And if I forget to update one of them, now I will have inconsistent data. So that would be an example of an update anomaly. How about if a deletion anomaly? Well, chemistry is only taken by one student, Jerry. If I decide to have Jerry be dropped from this table, he graduated, or he decided to withdraw from the course and he was the only student taking the course. When this row gets deleted, I have just removed the information and deleted the information related to the course, what the course name is and who the professor is. So that would give me a deletion anomaly, where if I delete something, I might delete some other information with it by mistake. Now, let's look at this table and let's ask ourselves, what normal form is this table in? Now, let's ask ourselves, is this table in first normal form? Here I have a student who's living in a city, and this is the zip code of the student. Do I have any cells that are non-atomic? I don't. Do I have any repeating groups? Here I have the several cities, but those are different zip codes for the same city. So I don't have anything repeating. So is this table in first normal form? Yes, because we don't have any repeating groups. Now, the second question is it in second normal form? Now, if I ask myself, what is second normal form? So second normal form means it's already in first normal form and I don't have any partial dependencies. Now, partial dependencies come when I have composite primary keys. Do I have any composite primary keys here? I don't. So do I have a table that's in second normal form? Yes, this table is already in second normal form because I don't have any not partial dependencies. Okay, good. So now we're in second normal form. Now, are we in third normal form? Third normal form means I don't have any transitive dependencies. So let's ask ourselves, is there any attribute here that depends on any other attribute that's not the primary key? And the answer is yes. The zip code depends on the city. The zip code in no way depends on who the student is. So here I have a transitive dependency. So is this table in third normal form? The answer is no. So here, this table is not in third normal form because of the transitive dependency. That depends where student determines the zip code, and that should not be the case. Now, let's ask ourselves here, what normal form is this table in? And why? And how can you move? And here, sorry, the answer is there. But let's just concentrate on this. Let's start again from the beginning. Is this table in first normal form? And immediately I see here that I have non-atomic cells. So I know that this table is not in first normal form. So what should I do? Well, what I would do is I would duplicate these two rows. I would have one red, one white, two yellow, two blue. And once I do that, I will notice that my bag ID is no longer unique. So what should I do? I should split. I should have the bag ID and the price be in one table, and then the colors that are bought in another table. So this table was not in any normal form, but we now moved it to first normal form by creating two tables. Okay, let's look at these tables and let's see how can we move them to the next normal form. So the first thing is asking ourselves, what normal form are they in? Do I have any cells that are non-atomic? And the answer is no. Do I have any repeating groups? Any groups that look like they are repeating? No. So this table is in, these tables are in first normal form. Let's ask ourselves now, is it in second normal form? Well, second normal form means that I don't have any partial dependencies. That happens when I have composite keys, primary keys. Composite primary key? No. Composite primary key? No. Composite primary key? Yes. So here the borrower has borrowed a book and it has a due date. Now here, is there anything that depends on part of it? So the borrower borrowed a book and the book is due on that date. So really there's nothing, there's no partial dependency here. So this table, these tables are already in second normal form. Now let's ask ourselves, are these in third normal form? Third normal form means that there are no transitive dependencies. Patron ID determines the name, and the patron ID also determines the address. So the address depends on the patron ID, and it does kind of depend on the name, but also the patron ID, really. So we don't have any transitive dependencies because the patron ID actually should determine the name and their address. Now here, if I ask myself book, the ISBN of the book, that determines the title and the genre. So here we're in third normal form and this table has nothing. So here we are already in third normal form. So why am I showing you this example? Because people, what they usually do is they come and say, oh, well, here I need to store the name in a table and I'm going to store the address in a table. But if you say, okay, I'm going to move the address to another table, what is going to be the primary key of that table? Well, the primary key is still going to be the patron ID, right? Here, like, you can have more than one person with the same name. Here I have two people that are named Pink. And for some reason, this address is $10, which is wrong, but ignore that. But here, if you say I'm going to split and you decide to split the address, that, you know, the patron ID with their name in one table and the patron ID and the address in another table, you haven't done anything because that second table also has the patron ID as the primary key. So remember when we talked about union, we said if you have two tables that have the primary key, we should actually combine them. So here, don't oversplit. You know, the same way here, some people would say, oh, well, the genre depends on the title, so I'm going to, you know, split that. Well, the genre, yes, depends on the title, but it's depending on the ISBN, which is already the primary key. So this is not a transitive property. A transitive property is when the genre would only depend on the title, not the ISBN. And so don't oversplit. So this is an example of, that I wanted to show because sometimes people oversplit when you really don't need to. So you always have to be careful not to oversplit. Let's look at this table and see if we can put it in third normal form. Now here I have a doctor, the name of the doctor, the patient the doctor saw, the name of the patient, when their appointment was, the time of the appointment, and the procedure. And immediately I see that I have repeating groups. Here I have my doctor information and my patient information and my appointment information all in one table. And the first thing I need to say, I need to remove those repeating groups. So the doctor information should be in a separate table from the patient information, from the appointment information. And now I have 3 tables. Now the next thing to do is ask myself, do I have what do I need to do to get to second normal form? Well, second normal form says that I should have no partial dependencies. Now this table is already only has 1 primary key, so it's fine. 1 primary key, fine. This table, I decided that my doctor ID, the doctor is the main, main primary key, and that every doctor has an appointment date and a time. So they might have different appointments on different days. So that's why the doctor ID, appointment date, and appointment time are my primary keys. Now the question is, do I have any partial dependencies? The patient ID, does the patient ID depend on anything here? No. Does the procedure code depend on anything here? Well, the procedure code is going to depend on the patient somehow, right? Now, it does depend on the patient, but the procedure code depends not, we're talking about second normal form now. Second normal form do I have a partial dependency on part of the primary key? So the patient ID doesn't depend on anything. The procedure code depends on patient ID. It's not dependent on the appointment time, the date, or the doctor ID only. So we are fine with second normal form. But if I want to go to third normal form, I might say that the procedure code depends on the patient ID. So here I could see that there might be a transitive dependency where the procedure code determines the patient ID. But if I look closely at this table, I find that the procedure code doesn't really depend on the patient ID because this patient, I have patient 200 who has 2 different appointments on 2 different dates for 2 different procedures. And patient ID 400 also has different appointments. Well, here they have an appointment for the same procedure. So the procedure is actually not dependent just on the patient ID. It is dependent on the patient ID with their appointment date and appointment time. And so this is why the procedure needs to remain in this table. And so that's why I don't say it's a transitive dependency, because here I have duplicate patients, like the same patient basically, but duplicate rows with different procedure codes. So this one is a little tricky because, you would say, oh, well, the procedure always depends on the patient, but you could have a patient that's following up with a doctor for several things that they are seeing the doctor for. So here, when I look at this table, it's already in third normal form. So this is an example where at first glance, people might want to say, oh, I need to split this into another table, but in reality, you don't need to. So for this class break, what I want you to do is just do extra practice with normalization. Again, copy this table into its own file and go through and modify each table at a time by saying, what is my purpose of this going to this normalization form? And then don't forget to do the homework for this chapter on Blackboard.